Last year at the Nationals, actually not last year, the year before that, there were so many students who were not only reciting poetry, the top 53 in the country that particular year at the Nationals, which happened to be at the end of April. I believe it's the last Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of April. Um, and I should have those specific dates for you in a minute. But anyway, they decided there were so many people who like to write poetry that they had a contest this last year for the best poem, and all of the people who went to nationals could submit a poem. I decided it would be a good idea to uh, have the same kind of contest, only all of the students that made it to the regional contest, that would broaden the number of students across the state participating in this event. And I bet a lot of you write poetry. One of our contestants from last year who did very well and who submitted a poem this year is from Superior, Wisconsin. And she has written a poem judged by Bruce Detlefson. I always get that, one of our judges here. And he, out of about five poets with at least 10 or 12 poems, chose this particular poem. Would you come down? Sunmi Femul. Her poem is Tobacco and Ash.
And salt.
Hmm?
And salt. Tobacco.
And salt. Oh my gosh, it's salt, not ashes. Sorry.
Thank you very much for having me here. This poem is featured in my published book titled Becoming. And if you'd like to get that also, it's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. Okay. Tobacco and salt. When woman becomes another word for property, for object, she learns to spit fire, learns to swallow gasoline, replace her sugar with her salt, and shame men who call her honey, call her sweetie, call her sugar, call her darling. She learns to chew our anger like tobacco and spit out words like toxic juice. If she swallows their poison, her body rejects it. It oozes from her lungs in rivers of rejection, and it sets her heart ablaze. Her body learns to secrete the venom through the pores of her skin. She learns to reject labels and refuses to be seen as second best. When woman becomes another word for his and pet and invitations that request her smile, she learns to smolder like tobacco, and it burns like hell. Thank you.
One more time. From Milwaukee High School of the Arts, Saliqua Winston, a junior. We have to look ahead for many of these kids. She said she plans to go to college and become a performer. I like this. I want to be able to make a living and make creating art my career by truly being myself. Excuse me, just before you start, if there are any cell phones in the audience, would you please take a moment to silence them? Thank you.
Mothers by Nikki Giovanni. The last time I was home to see my mother, we kissed exchanged pleasantries and unpleasantries, pulled a warm, comforting silence around us and read separate books. I remember the first time I consciously saw her. We were living in a 3-room apartment on Burns Avenue. Mommy always sat in the dark. I don't know how I knew that, but she did. That night, I stumbled into the kitchen. Maybe because I've always been a night person, or perhaps because I had wet the bed. She was sitting on a chair. The room was bathed in moonlight, diffused through those thousands of panes landlords who rented to people with children were prone to put in windows. She may have been smoking, but maybe not. Her hair was 3/4 her height, which made me a strong believer in the Samson myth, and very black. I'm sure I just hung there by the door. I remember thinking, what a beautiful lady. She was very deliberately waiting, perhaps for my father to come home from his night job, or maybe for a dream that had promised to come by. Come here, she said. I'll teach you a poem. I see the moon. The moon sees me. God bless the moon, and God bless me. I taught it to my son, who recited it for her, just to say we must learn to bear the pleasures as we have borne the pains.
From Superior High School, Zachary Palmer, a junior, looking forward to his future, says he wants to go to college to double major in political science and theater. Same thing, right?
Insomnia by Dana Joya. Now you hear what the house has to say. Pipes clanking, water running in the dark, the mortgaged walls shifting in discomfort, and voices mounting in an endless drone of small complaints like the sounds of a family that year by year you've learned how to ignore. But now you must listen to the things you own. The murmur of property, of things in disrepair. The moving parts about to come undone. And twisting in the sheets, remember the faces of those you could not bring yourself to love. How many voices have escaped you until now? The venting furnace, the floorboards underfoot, the steady accusations of the clock numbering the minutes that no one will mark. The terrible clarity that this moment brings. The useless insight. The unbroken dark.
Ellie Norman, a sophomore at University High School in Milwaukee, is looking to the future. Wants to go to college to become an aeronautical engineer. But her dream is to open a museum and educational center for women in history.
September 1918 by Amy Lowell. This afternoon was the color of water falling through sunlight. The trees glittered with the tumbling of leaves. The sidewalks shone like alleys of dropped maple leaves, and the houses ran along them, laughing out of square, open windows. Under a tree in the park, two little boys lying flat on their faces were carefully gathering red berries to put in a pasteboard box. Someday there will be no war. Then I shall take out this afternoon and turn it in my fingers and remark the sweet taste of it upon my palate and note the crisp variety of its flights of leaves. Today, I can only gather it and put it into my lunchbox, for I have time for nothing but the endeavor to balance myself upon a broken world.
Mandy McLaughlin, a senior at Elkhart Glen Beulah High School, is also looking to the future. Very specifically, I'll be attending the University of Wisconsin-Madison, she says, hoping to major in biology, pre-med, and go on to being a doctor. Poetry is good for doctors.
Bleeding Heart by Carmen Jimenez Smith. My heart is bleeding. It bleeds upward and fills my mouth up with salt. It bleeds because of a city in ruins, the chair still warm from sister's body because it will all be irreproducible. My heart bleeds because of baby bear not finding mama bear, and it bleeds to the tips of my fingers like I painted my nails crimson. Sometimes my heart bleeds so much, I'm a raisin. It bleeds until I'm a quivering, ragged clot, bleeds at the ending with the heroine and her sunken cancer eyes, at the ending with the plaintive flute over smoke-choked killing fields. I'm bleeding a river of blood right now, and it's wearing a culvert in me for the blood. My heart rises up in me, becomes the cork of me, and I choke on it. I am bleeding for you and for me and for the tiny babies and the IED blown leg. It bleeds because I'm made that way, all filled up with blood. My sloppy heart a sponge filled with blood to squeeze onto any circumstance. Because it is mine, it will always bleed. My heart bled today. It bled onto the streets and the steps of City Hall. It bled in the pizza parlor with the useless jukebox. I've got so much blood to give inside and outside of any milieu. Even for a bad zoning decision, I'll bleed so much you'll be bleeding. All of us bleeding in and out, like it's breathing or kissing. And because it is righteous and terrible and red.
From Wrightstown High School, next, senior Megan Like, whose future involves a plan to attain a master's in speech-language pathology at UW-Stevens Point. And I like this a lot. I want to pet an elephant in Africa.
Ode by Arthur O'Shaughnessy. We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams, wandering by lone sea breakers or sitting by desolate streams, world losers and world forsakers, on whom the pale moon gleams. Yet we are the movers and shakers of the world forever, it seems. With wonderful, deathless ditties, we build up the world's great cities, and out of a fabulous story, we fashion an empire's glory. One man with a dream at pleasure shall go forth and conquer a crown, and three with a new song's measure can trample an empire down. We, in the ages lying in the buried past of the earth, built Nineveh with our sighing, and Babel itself with our mirth, and o'erthrew them with prophesying to the old of the new world's worth. For each age is a dream that is dying, or one that is coming to birth.
Ashley Gray is here, a freshman at Lodi High School, as you know by now, with many talents and interests: soccer, painting, writing, drawing, playing piano. Going to college, a couple of years yet, but maybe not that long, and then travel the world.
Piano by D.H. Lawrence. Softly, in the dusk, a woman is singing to me, taking me back down the vista of years till I see a child sitting under the piano in the boom of the tingling strings and pressing the small, poised feet of a mother who smiles as she sings. In spite of myself, the insidious mastery of song betrays me back till the heart of me weeps to belong to the old Sunday evenings at home with winter outside and hymns in the cozy parlor, the tinkling piano our guide. So now it is vain for the singer to burst into clamor with the great black piano appassionato. The glamour of childish days is upon me. My manhood is cast down in the flood of remembrance. I weep like a child for the past.
Janessa Gould is next, a senior at Altoona High School, who wants to pursue a degree in communications design at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. A good role model, as already showed up today. And then, and I hope you do, travel the world.
Friendship After Love by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. After the fierce midsummer all ablaze has burned itself to ashes and expires in the intensity of its own fires, there come the mellow, mild Saint Martin days, crowned with the calm of peace, but sad with haze. So, after love has led us till he tires of his own throes and torments and desires, comes large-eyed friendship with a restful gaze. He beckons us to follow, and across cool, verdant vales we wander free from care. Is it a touch of frost lies in the air? Why are we haunted with a sense of loss? We do not wish the pain back, or the heat. And yet, these days are incomplete.
From Brookfield Central High School, sophomore Abby Fuchs is next. wants to go to college, a couple of years to plan it yet, but pretty clear she wants to become a makeup artist.
Every Single Day by John Straley, after Raymond Carver's Hummingbird. Suppose I said the word springtime, and I wrote the words King Salmon on a piece of paper and mailed it to you. When you opened it, would you remember that afternoon we spent together in the yellow boat? When the early whales were feeding and we caught our first fish of the year? Or would you remember that time off Cape Flattery when you were a little girl? Your father smoking, telling stories as he ran the boat. Then the tug and zing of that very first fish, spooling off into the gray-green world. You laughing and brushing back your hair before setting the hook. I know I am hard to understand sometimes, particularly when you're standing at the post office with only a piece of paper saying King Salmon on it. But just think of it as a promissory note. And that electric tug, that thrill pulling your mind into deep water, is how I feel about you. Every single day.
Last. You don't have to worry anymore. It's all set now. Adama Ba from La Follette High School. Plans to go to college, major in criminal justice. But just a sophomore, there is time to view all the criminals first and see whether they deserve justice or not. Graduate high school and get into law school. Those are big dreams. Congratulations. And
History by Camille Rankin. Our stone wall was built by slaves, and my bones are paid for. We have two of everything, twice heavy in our pockets, warming our two big hands. This is the story as I know it. One morning, the ships came. As foretold, death pearled handling, almost and completely. How cheap a date I used to be, each finger weak with the memory. Lost teeth, regret. Our ghosts walk the shoulders of the road at night. I get the feeling you've been lying to me.